As is the custom, every season has to have a gossip anime that is very popular or is talked about constantly. I call them like that because if even I heard about them, then people most definitely can't shut their yap about them for more than 2 seconds. And this season there were 2 animes like that, Goblin Slayer and Zombieland, and truth to be told, what I've heard about them wasn't very good. No, not the quality of the work, what I've heard about it. Real life gunting politics, and hearing that in a fandom is never a good sign. You know what's worse than a group of people zealously believing in something? A group of people zealously believing in something while politicizing what they believe in. Contrary to what a lot of people might think, you can have a reasonable dialogue with a zealot on everyday topics, but you can't reason with a political activist, for they have a direct interest in either converting you or making sure you die in a ditch, which is why the last thing I want in my animes is talking about Western politics that don't concern the anime in question, especially the type of politics that can either get you fired or killed for even mentioning. But I digress. Goblin Slayer is a 12-episode anime made by White Fox, which you might think is a good thing since they've made Jormungand, ReZero and Girls Last Tour, but then you remember that they've also made Grimoire of Zero and that anime where Satan works in McDonald's. A strange studio it is. They have a 50-50% chance of having a pretty good understanding of what they adapt and barely any understanding at all. In a world where gods play a massive real-time tabletop game, there are goblins, and goblins are that sort of thing that's significant enough to be a threat, yet not significant compared to all the other shit that tries to kill you, kinda like mass-produced fast food or global warming. And so they pretty much go unopposed, raping women, burning villages, you know, the usual, but there is one man who goes around and kills goblins as brutally efficient as possible, and that's our hero, the Goblin Slayer. The show is pretty much about his adventures of killing goblins while other people follow him around. Fucking Pulitzer Awards winner right here, but there is a glimpse of a good story in this. If it actually worked. The graphics are quite fun in that cathartic way of watching an active police chase or a burning building. Clearly bad, but there's something charming about all of that smoke and ruin. It all reeks amateurs or rushed development, from random second-long shots to Sir Goblin Slayer being a 3D model moving like it was stolen from recent Berserk. There's also a very strange obsession with lips of women in this anime. They're almost hentai tier yet, I'm not sure why. The music is a generic chorus mixed with generic rock guitar tracks that genuinely feel uninspired, but they kinda go in tone with the overall presentation, so there's no real point in complaining too much about it. I will say that the opening felt very weird at first, but once I actually bothered to listen to the lyrics and compared them to visuals, I thought, wait a second, are they trying to make a drama instead of action? And then it hit me, yes, they actually are trying to make this into a drama. That explains that stupid Eye of the Canary scene and all the other weird stylistic choices they've made. They genuinely think that this plot can work like a drama. Well, I hate to break it to you, but no, it doesn't. Allow me to explain why. Unlike a lot of other genres, drama is very character-centric, which means that it lives or dies depending on how much the viewer gives a shit about its characters. The easiest ways to do this is to either give them their own arcs, like in Berserk or Hinamatsuri, or make the story about their current predicament, like in Banana Fish or 91 Days. As you can see, the characters don't have to be sympathetic or even sane, but what they all must do is be flawed and relatable, and Goblin Slayer arguably has neither. Sure, there's a lot of suffering going around Goblin Slayer, but he seems perfectly fine with it. Sure, he has a tragic backstory that made him into what he is, but he's clearly over it and now does it out of both revenge and just pure enjoyment of killing goblins. The side characters try to be like those in Berserk and serve as a way to pull Goblin Slayer out of his autistic ball pit, but just like in Berserk, they either end up stealing the spotlight or just be deadweight on the only sensible person in their party, only at least Guts' team understands that he's basically the sole reason why they haven't turned into troll condoms by now and don't interfere with him, not to mention they have at least some background as well. Here they either have barely any personality or just blatantly hinder Goblin Slayer for no apparent reason other than to enforce their ideals onto a guy who will kill you the second you give any ground to goblins. Not to mention that all of their interactions with each other feel like someone watched the Goblin King scene from Hobbit and thought to stretch it into a 12-episode anime. So the action is mediocre, the drama is lame, the world building is deliberately generic, and that stupid random bleh sound reminded me of the sound babies make while shitting diarrhea. I would say avoid it at all cost, but people are already watching the new gossip anime of this season, so I guess my job here is done. Ain't I just the best?